Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Herald Torn. That's crazy, right? On this episode, we're talking about the secret lair debacle. We're talking about no bans. We're talking about Bloomburrow. We're talking about Dark Horse Comics. We're talking about Emma loving the video games. You know, it's all the normal stuff on this episode of the podcast. After the break, I am joined by Tori of the Scrybabies to talk about how she got her start in content, what she likes about making content, why she loves being funny, what other stuff she's into. It's a great interview. You're gonna love it. Let's get into this episode. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn. My name is Cal Jones, and today I am joined by the wonderful Emma, who's ready for Guy Fawkes Day in a couple months. What's up, Emma?
Hello, how's it going?
It's going great. We're having a great Wednesday. It's Tuesday. I keep thinking it's Wednesday. Thank goodness it isn't Wednesday, because that would mean I would be heading off to Gen Con any moment now, and I am not ready for that. I am also joined for this episode by the wonderful Dan. Hello, Dan. What is up?
Not much. Speaking of not ready, I'm not ready to do this show because you have not signed my check for $500 yet.
So here's the thing.
2 minutes that took. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Run the song. And welcome back. As always, we are going to just hop right into the news. Unlike last episode, which was like relatively uneventful in the grand scheme of things, and Dan and I still managed to like yap for 50 minutes. This week we have a lot to talk about, and we have two co-hosts, so we're going to have to keep it moving. First up, this is a little bit of old news at this point, but Dan and I spent most of the episode last week when we were talking, just like speculating about the possibility of an emergency ban for Nadu, emergency ban for Grief and Legacy, because both of those formats are currently dead in the water. Well, Wizards of the Coast came right out. They said there will be no emergency ban and restricted announcement. They are going to keep the faith, as it were. The next banned and restricted announcement for any format will be on, what was it, August 26th, their next scheduled date. So Legacy, Modern, Legacy not entirely a dead format even. It's just like people aren't excited about playing it. Modern, though, ooh boy, no one wants to play Modern right now unless they're really excited to play Bant Nadu. A big event this last weekend was won by Misplaced Ginger, Derek, and he went on Twitter and he was like, so I never thought I'd get to play a deck this broken. I basically had no clue how the deck worked in the grand scheme of things. Like, you know how the combos worked, you know how Nadu would work, but, you know, at a high level, not familiar with the deck, basically showed up, jammed the deck, in his own admission, like made a ton of like what should have been like game losing errors, and he just like simply won the whole event because the deck was just so busted, and he's a good player. So people are ready for Nadu to leave Modern, but that will not be happening for, as of this recording, a little under a month worth of days. Dan, Emma, any thoughts, or is this one just kind of open and shut? It probably should have happened, but also we understand that they want to stick to the schedule. I don't know.
It feels like a really difficult position for Wizards. Think of it as a bigger picture. So you've got Modern Horizons 3, which is, you know, massive set. We'll talk about how well Modern Horizons 3 is doing a little later on. But when you have something like a Cranial Ram pre-ban that happened before MA3 came out, that wasn't great PR. Sure, it needed to happen, and being on the Pauper panel, that had to happen. But if you're going into, yeah, this Nadu card's kind of fucked up. Like, at what point do you just it's just such a difficult position, because you have a problem card like Nadu. If you ban it, that's bad PR. People aren't going to buy cards. But if you don't ban Nadu, people aren't going to play Modern, which is going to be the RCQ format from the first week of August. So people could be playing Nadu decks for the first 3 weeks of the new RCQ season, which is also going to have a knock-on effect with stores, because they don't want to run these RCQs because it's going to be full of Nadu, full of 90-minute rounds, depressing to play against, not very inviting for stores. So it damages stores on that level as well. It just feels like a lost situation for Wizards. Like, sure, they should just rip the Band-Aid and ban it, but I can see why they didn't, because it's not necessarily up to one part of Wizards to ban this card. It has to go through multiple people, and it's like PR and marketing and stuff they have to consider as well, which sucks. Like,
yeah, it's a tedious process. It's certainly not something that like one person can make the decision on and do overnight. But yeah, it's a terrible card. It's just so it's as I have now played it on the other end of it and multiple times in Vintage Cube. It is such a demoralizing card. Oh my goodness!
What do you do against that?
Nothing.
Concede.
You just lose eventually. Yeah. You press
get 20 minutes. Get 20 minutes. Get your 20 minutes of your life back and concede. Like,
yeah, no, it's a miserable card to play against. It's honestly a miserable card to play. Like, it's tedious and it's not very fun. It doesn't do anything flashy. But yeah, their foot is just fully stuck in their mouth at the moment. I can't wait for the banning to come because it will make a lot of formats a lot better. And until then, I've seen some stores just going on and banning Nadu on their own. I want to say it was Andre Mengucci.
Like, Nadu is modern. Come on by.
Yeah, I saw Bosch and Roll post on his YouTube some leagues of like self-banned Grief and Legacy to see what the next iteration of the format's going to be like.
MTG Masters, the Magic Online community thing, they banned Nadu. It's like, we're not playing with this card because it's just so miserable to watch.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't make good content.
And it could break Magic Online as well. It's that kind of card if you play those starter decks. But yeah, it sucks. The card is obnoxious. Like, I wish Wizards would just ban it, but I can respect why they're not, because they've had to break the cadence that they've set a few times now.
Well, like, the kicker is too, like, it was an expensive card. It was like $10 or whatever around the time of the Pro Tour, and then the Pro Tour happened, and everyone expected it to be banned so quickly that now it's like a $2 card. I don't even know if like Nadu is moving packs anymore. Everyone's just like waiting around. No, I would suspect that
Psychic Frog is selling many more packs.
But the problem is buying the Nadus is not the problem. It's buying the Shukos.
Yeah, buying the Shukos. Shukos are expensive. I mean, I doubt there's gonna exactly be like, you know, you buy your spring your Nantukos, whatever, Spring Heart Nantukos. They're not like a super expensive card either, I imagine. But
the deck itself's about $1,100 average on Goldfish.
Yep.
What is the price of a Shuko now? I haven't seen.
I think it's like 20-30.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's take a look. Not MTGO. Not MitGo either. MTG Goldfish prices does have them at about $18. So if you wanted to just like buy them on TCG Player right now, it's probably like 15 or something.
But the problem is, though, there's just not many of it because no one opened Betrayers of Kamigawa because it was a terrible set. Sorry,
it was a set that turned a lot of people off Magic for a long time.
Yeah, right.
Well, and like to your greater point, Emma, like sure the Shukos are a big part, but like you said, the whole deck is $1,000, $1,100, maybe a little under $1,000, and like sure Nadu's banned, but you probably don't, unless you immediately want to transfer to playing like Jeskai Breach, you won't have a great use for that one of $20 Thassa's Oracle. You know, you aren't getting that $25 back for your. The
second Nadus get banned, Shukos will be like a $1 card, $2
exactly.
card.
It's a useless card. It's just it has.
I put a Dryad Arbor into a Magic the Gathering deck for the first time since 2015. I spent $8 on this. Now what?
Only corner case maybe is like Legacy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. There's other uses for the cards, but
you know, Grief is
it's still a card that gets played by Bant Breakfast, so like it's still playable, but it would only be a 1-up because you can fetch it off of your Urza Saga in that deck. So
there's other uses for the cards, but you're kind of blown out on the modern scale, unless you have a, you know, especially like, you know, a playset of Misties, a playset of Urza Sagas, not the cheapest thing right now, and unless you have another, you know, modern deck that you immediately want to use it in, to Emma's point, that is just kind of like wasted money. It goes past just the Shukos. There's a lot of other expensive cards in there you may not have a use for if Nadu's banned. Anyways, get why they kept with the schedule. I know a lot of people are upset that they, you know, kind of just like And the weird part about it is the weird part about it too is that they were like, all right, we will not be banning it sooner. There will be changes on August 26th. So like
they have to do it by then.
Legacy and Modern are effectively lame duck formats. The format that you have to play right now if you want to play normal, Modern, or Legacy is a format that will not exist come next month. So it's just, I don't know. It's a tough spot, but all right. Moving on. A little more fun. Wizards of the Coast continuing to expand their horizons and who they're working with and whatnot. Dark Horse Comics is going to be getting the rights to both Magic the Gathering and D&D properties. Starting in 2025, they are planning on manufacturing comics for both D&D and Magic the Gathering stories. Dark Horse Comics has interacted with these properties in the past. They released a 4-issue Magic the Gathering series back in 1998 and also did like a Stranger Things D&D comic book spinoff as well in 2020. But the comic book rights have belonged to other companies up until now. Now they're going to be going to Dark Horse. Dark Horse, really well known for doing a lot of like not quite superhero stuff, but a lot of other super interesting series. I think they're like, especially Star Wars. A lot of their Star Wars stuff is really well regarded. They've had the Star Wars property for a long I
wanted to ask because I'm not a comic person. So what are some of the Dark Horse like big hits that I might have heard of?
Definitely Star Wars. Lots and lots and lots of Star Wars. Beyond that, they are like a lot of smaller stuff. I don't think like Dark Horse would be considered like quite an indie publisher, but I feel like they're pretty close and compared to like Marvel, DC, etc. But they did Sin City, they did Hellboy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I say as I'm like, hey guys, I swear that it's not superheroes. They also did 300. That's like a little bit of a lesser known fact, I think. 300.
Well, that's pretty cool. A lot of like really like gritty, more mature kind of things.
Definitely.
So sort of hopeful for what could be possible with that then.
A lot of people don't know that like the film 300 is pretty directly based on a comic book series from the 90s that was published by Dark Horse. Though obviously that was then kind of based on a movie from the 60s, which was based on, it's Turtles all the way down, as one could say. But they also did a really popular Ninja Gaiden stuff, but Star Wars, I think, is far and away. Their Star Wars stuff is far and away their most popular stuff, both because it's good and because it's Star Wars. But I think they'll do a good job. Any comic book readers in chat? Dan, what's your favorite comic book?
I used to mess with them when I was younger a bit. I was actually just talking to a friend of the show, Kai Fervent Alchemist, about this earlier today because he's a big comic book guy. I was into the X-Men and Spider-Man quite a bit, and I'm pretty sure that I had comics of both. But other than that, I don't know that I have had too many. I've definitely read Sin City before, so I guess I have read a Dark Horse comic. But yeah, other than that, not too big a comic book person. What about you, Emma?
Not the biggest either. So the only time I've really read comics was old Star Wars comics, and this was like pre-Disney acquisition. So this was like old Legacy style, not canon Star Wars stuff. The older stuff was really, really good. There was a series called Crimson Empire, which is pretty good. Talks about different factions in the Empire that turned on each other and stuff like that. There's also a really good Boba Fett one I remember reading, but that's about it.
I love seeing more Magic the Gathering stories, and I think if Dark Horse can handle these property well, and D&D stories for that matter, I think if Dark Horse can like handle these properties well, that will be a really big boon for Magic the Gathering as a whole.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really deep potential for these stories in the way that they can tell them, and I feel like the current aspect of doing it like merely through the website releases is like, I don't know. I don't want to disparage the authors of those articles, but I think that they could certainly go a lot deeper into like the detail of what they're talking about and the character depth and everything. I'm excited to see a new way that we're going to be able to receive some Magic stories. I think it'll be a good thing for the game.
Well, I agree, Dan. Thank you.
Good addition, Cal.
What?
I said good addition.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just cut that. It's fine. Next up on the docket, we're keeping it moving. We're zooming. We're flying. Last quarter earnings call. Emma was not here. This quarter earnings call, Emma is here. Emma, what can you tell us about the quarter 2 Hasbro's earning call that went on this week? What insight did we get from one? Chris is not cooking cocks.
So Q2 for Hasbro / Wizards was pretty good. Most of the profits came from Modern Horizons 3, big surprise. And the other one was in the digital video games aspect. So stuff like Monopoly Go in particular, which is this platform that is brimmed with microtransactions and stuff like that. And just a huge money thing somehow. I don't get it, but I don't play Monopoly.
I hadn't heard of it until I read this article. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Apparently it's just like a constant revenue stream for Hasbro, which is kind of bonkers. Plus you have things like Baldur's Gate 3 that has popularized D&D quite a bit, so there's a lot of new interest in playing Dungeons and Dragons. So while the success seems good, Chris Cox is looking to add more digital stuff to Wizards, so stuff like video games. Whether that means something like a Baldur's Gate 4 at some point, who knows? It won't be Larian Studios because they've already said they're not going to do the next one. Sad, but probably correct. You've done the bet. You've done Baldur's Gate 3, which is you can't do better than that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From
software,
it'll be interesting.
Baldur's Gate 4 incoming.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if this new direction for video games from Hasbro / Wizards affects stuff like Magic Arena. How do Hasbro monetize that even more? We already know the economy of Arena is absolutely hideous and predatory. Are they going to keep doing that, or are they going to add gems and stuff to booster packs finally, physical booster packs, so you can get some incentive from opening these packs like they do with Pokemon? The interesting thing here with the direction of going into gaming is it's interesting because Blizzard's new president, John Haidt, is a former Blizzard's and Sony Entertainment guy. He's got decades in the video game space, spent a lot of time producing video games, leading teams and stuff. So that background as well is also really interesting, considering they've hired somebody with a gaming, a digital gaming background, and now there's this information about Q2 being really good for the digital games arm for Hasbro. So interesting to see what they do going forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that it can go, but you're right. With someone with so much experience, they're definitely going to bring a very fresh perspective to the Wizards team, I would imagine, and probably get them to do some things that they normally would not think of. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how it's going to affect the future of what Wizards is going to do.
One thing that's worth noting about John Haidt, he is one of the few Blizzards people that Blizzard's people actually like. Which is
a very rare quality, actually.
A very rare trait at Blizzard's Entertainment, given what happened with Activision and everything else as of late. He also worked on World of Warcraft and Hearthstone, so that is also interesting to see how that transfers over to Wizards as well. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he plays D&D and Magic as well, so that's something at least.
Yeah, that helps.
He's familiar with the games.
Full RPG Magic game or what?
Well, there was going to be that MMO, but then it got cancelled, didn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Great. The one thing that I've seen some reporting on that I'm a little reticent about this new direction is that there's this new direction. We're doing stuff. They've bought some, they've partnered with some different companies. They're investing some more money into this side of the business. But they've already kind of come out and said, yeah, we'll have new games next year. But where? We haven't heard a single peep about what any studio is working on. We've only heard about studios being shuttered or stuff getting canceled. Baldur's Gate 3 was the first successful, really successful D&D or Wizards of the Coast game in a very long time, since maybe even Baldur's Gate 2, which was a very long time ago.
If something is successfully published within a calendar year, it will be complete dog shit. There's no possible way it could be good.
Exactly.
I will just preemptively say that. Video games you cannot make a good one in that short period of time.
And like maybe they've been cooking for a minute now, but
they would have had to have been for years, though, like close to a decade.
Yeah, and by now is like the time that you've got to be talking about that stuff if you're going to be
big
releasing
time.
it.
You would have promos, you would have demos, I think, I would imagine.
We've already had like the big video game press events this year, right?
That is correct. They are all done.
So, yeah.
I know that PAX is coming back around, but I don't think until the new year, right?
I think PAX is going to be Duskborn mostly from Wizards, but it's like, have to see what happens. But
so I am definitely very interested to see how the Wizards' new president can kind of change the direction, because it feels like a very purposeful choice to me. To your point, Emma, like World of Warcraft, well-liked Blizzard background, worked on Hearthstone, Sony Entertainment, the background is all there to try to take them more in a digital direction. So if they can actually like have the patience to let that bake and give their studios time and, make games worth playing, a la Baldur's Gate 3, which had like infinite runway, was delayed several times, ended up costing more than it was supposed to.
Which is just the nature of video games, to be honest.
That's just the nature of games. Yeah. Emma, what?
Also, like if Baldur's Gate 3 came out at the correct time, people would have given a crap about Battle for Baldur's Gate, Commander Legends, which didn't happen. Yeah. So
I did crack 10 packs of that set this week.
Set's great.
To find a card I needed. How about that?
That's funny. You should have just asked me. If you're looking for like a background, I actually have a collection of all of them.
Oh my gosh.
I definitely would have snail mailed you one.
The kicker was that I needed it by tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So I cracked to take it to Gen Con.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
That's really nice that you threw a convention for your wife.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole convention, 70,000 people, Indianapolis, Indiana, everyone coming together to celebrate my wife.
God, You're right, I would snap be there. I would love to go to Gen Con. The food would be so good.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I have wanted to like do something like that sometime, like CalCon or Gen Con or whatever, just like invite 20 people to our house. Just the game for the weekend. Be like, yeah, this is about Jen. Emma,
I had something
from England.
I had something similar once that me and my friends did. It was called FriendCon, and it was literally a weekend of like me and like 8 to 10 friends. We would like get an Airbnb and just play play like board games all weekend. But we called it FriendCon because the second it came to Monday, we all hated each other's guts because we played competitive board games for like 3 days straight, and we needed a break.
Oh, incredible. I love that. Emma, were there any other major takeaways from this here event?
Yeah, so let's talk about Magic as in the tabletop game and steer away from digital for a moment. So according to Chris Cox, Hasbro CEO, he says Modern Horizons 3 is actually sold quicker than Tales of Middle-earth.
That's kind of crazy.
That's kind of bonkers when you think about it.
Because Tales of Middle-earth was the highest selling set ever, wasn't it?
Right, yeah, it's the best selling set of all time right now. But if projections are, what Hasbro and Wizards say they are, it's looking like Modern Horizons 3 is going to be the best selling set of all time. If projections keep to, if the sales keep doing well for a year or two, which it looks like it will, it's going to take over Middle-earth, which is crazy considering, how strong Middle-earth was. One more thing as well, Bloomburrow is also selling really, pre-selling really well. It wasn't, sure, it's like we're in Q3 now, so it wasn't really a big deal on this Q2 earnings call, but the fact that they've mentioned it at the end kind of says to you that's a good sign, and I would put my money that it's going to be the best-selling standard set of all time.
I would probably be inclined to agree with you because it is a set that has a really wide appeal just outside of the general Magic playing person of just like, it's so easy to get someone into cute bunnies and little mice playing Magic.
Right. When just like talking to friends and stuff who don't really know Magic, just don't really talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard about the Animal Magic set. I'll probably get into it when, that comes out because, it looks cute. And when you just have like random people saying that haven't really engaged with the game until now, that's how you know you have a really good set and a properly strong, world building, almost universes beyond like Reach, which you don't really see with these like proper Magic sets, air quotes, that don't rely on these IPs to sell cards.
Yeah, and I think extremely largely due to the art of the set, of just like the characters, the settings, but also this like really nice return to sort of classic fantasy art, like all out the Hildebrandt brothers and contemporaries of them. It's just like really great art. It's really there's so much of modern Magic art that is for, like, to just put it simply, dark. Just like not in terms of like motif or anything, but just like the colors are so dark and saturated that they can be so hard to see. But this is such a like bright and beautiful atmosphere that like everything really pops. Everything has a lot of character and pizzazz to it. It's just a really fun set.
It's very endearing, and people gravitate towards endearing. I felt like in the last year or so, a lot of Magic has been, it's been dark. There's been a lot of horror. There's been a lot of body horror because we've had Phyrexians, and people are kind of put off that. I got bored of it after a while. And I'm like, I kind of need something cute and fluffy and bright. And now we have Bloomburrow. Short-lived, because Duskmourn is out in a couple of months, and we're going to go back to classic horror and body horror again. But it's just such a breath of fresh air. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's classic fantasy, which Magic doesn't do enough, and they should be leaning into that more often, I feel.
It's the reason why I fell in love with the game 20 years ago, and I think it's easily something that will make many more people fall in love with the game. Because the thing is that, like, we've talked about it several times, gameplay can be so incredibly complicated that, like, we cannot rely on the game being great to get more people into it. Like, that will inevitably do it for a lot of people, but like you said, there's such a wider appeal with there being cute characters on the cards.
Yep, and like Bloomburrow is a really low-powered set. Like, the cards themselves aren't that expensive, like pre-sale right now, because you have such a strong theme. You don't need to have powerful cards to sell the set. The theme is selling the set, and that's why it's going to be so popular. I kind of see this as the Ravnica for newer Magic players, like the 2024 Magic player. They're going to be like, oh, I came into Magic during Bloomburrow, the first Bloomburrow set, because we all have to come back. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It feels like
another parallel. I think it's going to be a limited environment that's remembered very fondly, because it is a ton of fun.
People love the guilds, color pairings, and unique mechanics within those guilds, and Bloomburrow is the exact same of that, just cuter.
Yeah, I think like the appeal of the set is very high, and at the exact same time, it is like finally the set where it feels like they've ratcheted back the mechanical complexity and like word count on cards a little bit. A lot of the mechanics in this set are pretty simple. They kind of just make sense. It's like, oh, you spent 4 mana this turn? Cool, you get to do a thing. Oh, that's something I already wanted to do. Awesome. Oh, your powerful card, you can make a little 1/1 baby. Oh, that just makes sense. Cool. We can talk about Bloomburrow a little more later, but yeah, this set, the rocks. I mean, I guess we basically have talked about Bloomburrow all that we could have in the product watch. So, I love this set a lot. I was at pre-release this last weekend for it, and it was just a blast. Playing sealed, for this like synergistic of a set can be a little bit weird, but there's 2 changelings at the common slot and a changeling, I think, even at the uncommon, and it helps fix some problems. And the duo, I love the duos set, the duos cycle of cards at common. For the listeners, if you're unaware, there's a common cycle where each of the different animals kind of has a theme. Like frogs like to flicker or bounce stuff, and the mice like to boost each other, target each other with abilities, and the rabbits, they like to have lots of them. They care about like creature count and all that kind of stuff, and the raccoons, squirrels care about food, and the raccoons care about you spending 4 mana every turn. And there is duos, so the raccoon and squirrel duo costs 3. Nice. And when it enters the battlefield, it makes a food, and then it also has an expend ability where you can pay for and yada yada. The rabbit, the rabbit mouse combo costs 1, so it's really easy and fast to get out onto the battlefield for the rabbits, but it also has a relatively weak pay 1, tap, target creature gets +1/+1 to end a turn, activate only as a sorcery ability, which plays into the mouse stuff. So I liked that design cycle a lot. That was really cute.
They remind me of the guild mages.
Yeah, definitely.
Just this overlapping synergy.
Yeah,
like you can
just
play
like
it in
make stuff
colours.
works together. Yeah, exactly.
I think my only thing about Bloomburrow that I would wish that would happen is I would love to play the set with draft boosters and not play boosters. I think I would enjoy it a lot more. Right? Just because the design of the play boosters just give you a buck ton of rares, which of course you want people to open more rares because they think, oh great, I'll buy more packs. That means I'll get more rares. It incentivizes people to spend more money on packs. I get why Wizards have done it. I just wish we could have traditional draft boosters for this set because I think the limited experience would be so much better.
Yeah, like actually you need,
and more honest.
You need a lot of these commons around actually to help make some of these things work. A lot of the rares are maybe a little more EDH focused or, you know, only work for lizards. You know, if you have a lizards deck, this rare will be great, but you didn't get enough lizard commons because there wasn't enough commons in the pack. So
right.
Yeah, I got to do the early access event for Wizards, and I had a ton of fun drafting. But doing these sealed pools was a much different experience because the amount of rares that you see is so incredibly higher. It is a lot more balanced when you are drafting because obviously you only get to pick one out of your every single pack that you're drafting. But you do have the issue of not having enough commons, and the commons are so essential for these draft decks. A large part of why I think this draft environment was so much fun is that it wasn't very rare and bomb dependent. You could put together such a great draft deck that was mostly just like uncommons and commons. But yeah, like having just one or two fewer commons in your pack, whatever it is between play boosters and draft boosters, I can't recall. It really does make a difference in the limited environment in a way that I don't think is beneficial to playing limited in any fashion, really.
Well, that is enough about the Hasbro earnings call and also our discussion of the newest set, Bloomburrow. We have one little last bit of news here today. They announced all the details we could ever want to know about the upcoming Eternal Weekends. Eternal Weekends are, of course, the big events these days where people can get together and play a huge Legacy event for stakes and a huge Vintage event for stakes. There will be one in Japan in October. As usual, it will be in Pittsburgh for the United States. That will be in November. And the one in Europe this year will be in December, and that'll be in the Czech Republic. They have some pretty slick promos for getting to the top 64 and the top 32. I don't think they showed off really sick ones for the top 8. I don't recall. But the big announcement that got a lot of people a little bit riled up is that Wizards of the Coast will not be supplying the painting trophies this year. For those of you who do not know, Eternal Weekend, one of the biggest draws for competitors, besides, you know, the chance to get to play like Vintage for stakes, which is just something that you don't really get to do much anymore, except for at Eternal Weekend. Historically, Wizards of the Coast has commissioned artists to paint physical, fairly large painting reimaginings of staples like Time Walk, the Moxons, Library of Alexandria, Sylvan Library, so on and so forth. They have them paint a physical painting, and then they'll frame it up to look like it is in a big card frame. And so it's like a huge framed painting of a card, but the whole thing looks like, you know, one of those oversized cards they sell at events, but it's a staple in the flavor text, you know, where the flavor text would go. It says like 2024 Legacy Eternal Weekend Champion. They will not be providing those this year. So understandably, a lot of people are upset. These were kind of one of the big draws that a lot of people had to coming and playing in these events, was that you would get a really cool, really unique trophy. Dan, you know, a couple episodes, last episode even, we were talking about Cowtown Throwdown, and suddenly a lot of people had like FOMO for the CEDH event because it was a CEDH event, but you could also win a sword. People were just like instantly more interested in the event because you could win such a unique prize there. That is the way a lot of people have expressed they feel about these Eternal Weekends. I kind of hope that like maybe the TOs can kind of step in and figure out a way to commission something similar or something, because this is like a really cool tradition that's been going on for years. These really cool, unique trophies for Eternal Weekend kind of felt like almost, not to say like the last thing that these communities had left over other formats was these really cool trophies, and now it's gone. But what are your thoughts?
As someone who doesn't really play Legacy or Vintage or these older Eternal formats, I could definitely see the frustration because basically they're saying, yeah, you can play in this event. You're not getting a trophy, though. You get some prop rotations or tinkers, which, don't get me wrong, look fantastic. But it's like the big card is just such a cool, unique thing. And like even today, I saw a bunch of like quoted tweets from Fire Shoes saying there's going to be no painting this year. And it's just people like, yeah, I won this at Eternal Weekend 2020, whatever. Here's my Sylvan library. Here's my whatever. This is really unique to me because, it's a trophy. Like you always like competitive players want some validation and some proof that they've won something. A trophy is a really good symbolism of that. And it's just such a shame that Wizards have just missed the mark for whatever reason. We don't know why. And yeah, it's just like, have a Mox or something. It's just so frustrating. It seems so like low-hanging fruit for Wizards. They just keep missing grabbing the fruit.
I think that's the most disappointing part of all of this, yeah. And the sentiment that I repeatedly saw today on Twitter of the people who are like taking pictures of themselves with their trophies is like, this is something that I remember a lot more than just like winning a pile of money. Like you put your money in your bank account, it just continues to be your pile of money, whatever you got. But that very unique trophy is like it is a one of one. It's something that you earned for competing in this event. Like, and that's how I feel about any competitive events I've ever been in as well. I remember them much better because of the trophies that I have than remembering like specific games or just that I won in general.
People don't go to these events for money because people who go to these events have money because they're playing proper vintage and legacy decks. They already have like the money, so to speak. It's more about the material sort of reward for playing in these events. And sure, it's going to discourage some people from attending because it's like, yeah, there's no big card. I want the painting, and which also really sucks for them because these events are the only ones they can actively play on a calendar year because Wizards don't really support Legacy, Vintage, and anything else. So it must be really conflicting for them, and I feel sorry for them. Like they've been let down this way.
And like to some extent, like some of these Eternal formats have been like resurging slightly over the last couple of years as the community has kind of been like, all right, well, we're not going to get anything from Wizards besides Eternal Weekend, so what can we do? And, there's Buffalo Chicken Dip has been like a smaller tournament organizer that's been popping up in the Midwest, and there have now been a couple years in a row this really high stakes, vintage tournament, that Brian Koval most recently won. Classic Brian Koval, really.
I'm shocked to hear this.
Wow, he won a Black Lotus at a vintage event? Okay,
I saw
what else?
EW was happening in Pittsburgh, and I was like, okay, Pittsburgh's, not too far from me. And then I saw Koval tweet, I'm going to all three. Well, I'm not going to any anymore.
But yeah, it's a real disappointment. And maybe that's one of those things that Wizards could like backtrack on or whatever, but it may just be too late at this point. Commissioning original art can be a bit of a time-consuming process. So
I would love to, like you said, like see the tournament organizers step up and do something with this. But yeah, like the time is just so tight. And what do you do to replace something like that? Like
also, it shouldn't be on the TOs to come up with that solution.
Yes, absolutely.
Like if a TO does that, I would be looking to talk to Wizards going, hey, can you expend this in some way? Like, can you give me some cost towards this? Because this is something Wizards should have done. Why should other stores pick up the pieces for something that is so low-hanging fruit and they've fumbled the bag?
Like you said, it's just so obvious. Like, how do you not do this? I don't know.
Yep. Disappointing, frustrating, etc.
Considering like the whole legacy stuff of Grief, like it just feels another punch in the gut.
Yeah, especially for the Legacy community. Yeah, they're like, all right, well, our format's dead. We can't play it for a month. Who knows if our local night will come back? Who knows if people will bother playing once they finally ban Grief again? Well, at least I can go to Eternal Weekend. Oh. All right, well, we all know how much Wizards of the Coast loves to save money by not doing this kind of stuff. But how does Wizards of the Coast make money? That's right. It's time for the product watch.
Oh wow! Like someone
that was somber.
I know it was. The lowest energy you've ever recorded your
voice. I feel like you're on like some sort of crime TV show and you're like explaining what's going on. Here is the product quality. Dun, dun, dun. Much more sinister than it is. Duskmourn's not out yet. Come on, guys.
And welcome back to the product watch. We were going to talk... We're gonna talk about Bloomburrow. But we already did that quite a bit. I do have one more thing to say about Bloomburrow that I didn't say earlier. I am number one, I am excited that Bloomburrow is one of the 2 sets this year that we get to ruminate on a little bit. We do have a month break between release of Bloomburrow and official start of spoiler season for Duskmourn. That is about as long of a break as we got mentally as we got between like Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Modern Horizons 3. I believe Modern Horizons 3 spoilers did start like a little bit sooner than that, but we do.
I mean, they started much sooner than that because the leaks happened.
Well, yeah, the leaks happened and that took up a lot of air out of the room, but I am still sad that like it's not like there's a quarter in between Duskmourn and Bloomburrow. We'll have Duskmourn before we know it. And the vibe of Duskmourn, partially I'm not a like horror movie guy, but after Bloomburrow, which while definitely referential in some ways, feels like a lot like a breath of fresh air, a break from a lot of the normal Magic the Gathering story stuff, a lot from a big break from pretty referential top-down design. To go from that straight into Duskmourn, which is like really dark, will on average I think be like, oh, that's the thing from the thing type of card design. I'm not looking. It's gonna feel like a bit of whiplash to me. I think a lot of the things I like about Bloomburrow from a theming perspective are the exact opposite in Duskmourn. So I'm not exactly looking forward to that transition personally. But
I'm a big horror movie person, but not a classic slasher fan so much, which is what a lot of this seems to be referencing. But yeah, it's once again not for me.
I just wish Duskmourn was Bloomburrow Part 2, The Block.
Yeah.
I would kill for a block of Bloomburrow. There have been plenty of times where I'm glad
we're not on the block system anymore, but Bloomburrow is one where I would take a whole block set for sure.
I think you can make exceptions when it comes to sets, depending on how you feel about the world building. Sure, in the past, when you've designed blocks, like the first set does great because it's brand new place, whatever. But if you do like the second and then the third, the sales peter off when it gets to the second and third. It happened with Khans and Tarkir. Like Dragons and Tarkir just did not sell at all because people were done with the set, or done with the world building and the theme. But I think with something like Bloomburrow, you could easily just have like another set around that. I understand Wizards want to push Duskmourn because when MagicCon Las Vegas happens, that's the weekend of Halloween. That makes sense to have like a horror set to tie into all that. It makes total sense. I just wish we could have Bloomburrow for the rest of the year, and just get to enjoy this really adorable set that clearly Wizards have put a lot of love and attention, and they're going to revisit it a ton because it's just that kind of set that brings in new players a ton.
Yeah, and I think it's largely what you said is just that there is a real difference in the amount of world building that you can do between these two sets. Like, Bloomburrow is so worthy of exploring deeper. There's a bunch of like really interesting characters, and there are so many different ways that you can attack the story of the different factions of the animals working against each other or with each other. But when you have a set that is just largely this card was a movie poster, this card is the axe from some horror movie.
We have Chainsaw. That's a card in Duskmourn that is the Evil Dead chainsaw. Like they're leaning into that, and I understand that's great if you're into that stuff. I'm really happy for you, but I just want my bunnies for a bit longer.
There's just nothing else to be explored really.
And a big part of it too is that like when it comes to a lot of like horror-esque archetypes, we have already run through a lot of the like higher level kind of stereotypes with like Innistrad's various sets. It's not like directly referential per se, but a lot of that creepy horror, more in the monster genre, I guess, or in the Eldritch horror space, we've been all over that with Innistrad, like two times over.
And I think
now,
it's done much better in those sets.
We had the pumpkin spice horror with Midnight Hunt, which was basically Midsummer, which didn't do great because people were kind of done with Innistrad as like a set. Like the Lovecraftian stuff did really well because for some reason people really love Lovecraftian horror. I think they hit it at a peak where that was like really trendy. But now it's just like, cool, you can go back to Innistrad and do what? Gisa bat somebody with a shovel again? Like, she did it in Thunder Junction. She doesn't need to be on that like plane anymore.
Even then, when we're getting to the point of Shadows over Innistrad, it really felt like we have like done a lot of what this plane wants to do and like what we can really squeeze from it. Like, how much is there really left here?
And then the horror you had recently was the Phyrexian horror, which is very orthodoxy, almost has like these religious sort of culty connotations, which it's kind of weird for me. I'm like, we shouldn't probably be touching this. And then you've got all the body horror stuff, and it's like, I'm just kind of tired of horror, to be honest. I want less Game of Thronesy dark stuff and more bright and colorful stuff.
I mean, luckily, a Return to Lorwyn coming soon, though, which is canonically one of my favorite sets of all time, largely because of the art and the atmosphere.
That's exciting to me. One, because Lorwyn was always the set that I wish I played when I first started playing Magic. I'm like, wow, this looks great. This is like my kind of fantasy, the Jesper Ainsing sort of fantasy, that really whimsical, colorful kind of fantasy. But like, what's the point of Lorwyn if we have Bloomburrow?
It's a great question. For me, I think it's like the extension of play.
Great.
We want to block a Bloomburrow, but we can't have it. So
Lorwyn's great for Lorwyn's great for like the nostalgia people like yourself. But it's like, for newer people, it's like, cool, how is this different to Bloomburrow? It's a very cutesy, bright, animal-y, no humans set. What's the difference? So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Lorwyn and how that ties into Bloomburrow. So I imagine that standard period is also going to be sick because you're just going to have so much kindred synergy as well. But
yeah, because I would assume that we're also going to get shapeshifters or whatever, the changelings, many more changelings in Lorwyn as well. So the kindred archetypes will be out of control.
And kindred sets tend to do well, so...
And that's a whole bunch of relatively new creature types that are getting fleshed out here. So it's just like a whole new potential audience, space to work in. Love to see it. All right, we have one more thing to talk about during the product watch. How do we feel about Secret Lairs these days, guys? How's it going? How's the secret,
up two middle fingers to
how's
the
the Secret Lair experiment? How are we feeling about a limited product?
I mean, my Secret Lair experience was great recently because I bought the Sheldon Secret Lair, and that was print to order. So I actually got the product that I wanted, which is really great.
It was fantastic. I cried when I opened it because it was so fantastic. I was really glad to finally get it, and I felt so happy to finally have it in my hands. And man, when they announced the Monty Python one, I was like, wow, I'm not so big a fan of so many things that I'd be like, wow, I'd give them 30 of my stupid dollars for that. But I was so willing to give them 30 of my stupid dollars for that, and I absolutely couldn't. There was just not a way I could do it.
Yep. So a little background context, listener, in case you didn't know, there was a fairly popular drop that happened for Secret Lair over the weekend, featuring a lot of cool reskins of existing Magic the Gathering cards within the Monty Python universe, featuring such as like Tim the Sorcerer as Prodigal Sorcerer. They really took that one full circle.
Mm-hmm. I love that one.
Yeah.
There were two different Birds of Paradises for the African swallow.
You got Dismember as well.
Yep.
That's right. With the Black Knight fight. Oh, that was a fantastic one. I'm making myself even more sad that I don't have it.
Yes, exactly. Just great cards top to bottom. The most hype that I've seen, like people who have been like Secret Lair haters, so many people are like, oh, you finally got me. You made some really funny cards with a property I like. Oh, brother, I've been defeated. I have no choice but to spend my money on it. Like Dan. That was Dan's inner voice, actually.
I was pointing at myself the whole time for listeners.
But here's the kicker. Unlike the last really big and demand Secret Lair they did, the Sheldon Spellbook, these were all limited print runs. Yippee! So people who logged on immediately at 9 a.m. PST were met with a line that said like, hey, 2-hour wait, have fun. I think at some points it even said 3-hour wait. And so people who dutifully got there right on time, some of them were not able to purchase the product. They got to the front of the line and Monty Python was sold out for people who had been sitting at their computer for like an hour and a half since 9 a.m. PST. And it did not notify them that it was sold out until they were at the front of the line. So they got to the front of the line and they were like, surely I will get my fun Monty Python thing that I want. Wrong. And the kicker about this too is like, a non-0% of a large percent, maybe even of the things that were sold for these things are like people who are able to hop on and buy as many as possible so that they can like resell them, which is just like not, that's what this type of FOMO creates. Post picture of fear of missing out creature that they already spoilered from Duskborn. Because that's going to be a creature. That's going to be a new one.
That's going to be under every single post Wizards puts out going forward.
I think Firetooth actually commented that on.
That's the new greed, basically.
Yeah,
it's the new greed. It sucks. Like if you're at San Diego Comic-Con recently, you could have picked it up there, but you would have to be at San Diego Comic-Con to get that, and that wasn't common knowledge. It really sucks, but it's also, that is the design of these secret lairs. They're meant to make you feel crappy that you didn't get it. That's the purpose of them. That's why they've moved to this model. It sucks, and Wizards should absolutely not do it, because it actually makes them more money to do it the old school way, and people will wait. But you don't create FOMO that way. You don't create urgency. You don't artificially, inflate demand that way. And that's what they want. Or that's what Hasbro wants. It could be a Hasbro thing. Who knows? But
it is amazing that at one point when Magic was making cards in sets that were so collectible, and that's how you, if you were a person who wanted to make money buying and selling Magic cards, you were buying into standard sets and things like that. And now they've just handed it to you on a silver platter of no, if you want to make money on Magic cards, buy and flip these.
Wizards have tried to get around the whole scalping thing. So before you could buy 20 secret lairs on one order, they've reduced that to 5 per person, but that doesn't matter because you can have bots and multiple accounts that gets around that. So it doesn't really make
really
a difference.
Dedicated to it.
Yeah, and people are, because go on the MTG Finance Reddit, people talk about this stuff all the time. It's a market. As much as Wizards don't acknowledge the secondary market, they know what they're doing. And it sucks. And I really hope Wizards can backtrack on this some way. I looked at Mark Rosewater's Tumblr earlier, and a lot of people were complaining to him about the secret lair, and he's just gone, I can pass this on to the right people. I can't promise anything, but we'll see.
Yep. It's a tough spot.
And I'm also really surprised how popular Monty Python is in the Magic space. I wasn't expecting that, in a good way.
Yeah, I knew that there were plenty of people like myself and older than myself, because I think I'm sort of on the younger end of the spectrum of people who are big Monty Python fans. But I knew there were plenty of them out there, but the fact that there would be so many rabid and extremely online Monty Python and Magic fans enough to buy this out in a matter of minutes was also mind-blowing to me.
Well, it's disappointing. We've been saying that this was going to happen, and lo and behold, it's happened. It took longer to happen for a drop than I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to happen for the Hatsune Miku ones, and I don't think it ended up. I think people, even the Hatsune Miku ones, I think sold out within 7 hours, which if you're at work and can't get to your phone because you're employed and have to, you can still miss out on that. And that's seems like a way different scenario than you have a 30-day window. So regardless of when your payday is, regardless of what you have going on, if you are able to afford this luxury good within a time window, you can get it. Now it's all right, you better have the money available within a certain time window and show up at the exact time. I wanted a Monty Python secret lair. I work from home. I have quite a lot of expendable income, and I was in an important work meeting. So I could not hop into the line right at 9 a.m. PST, so I missed the drop. And I'm I am literally the ideal secret lair buyer who has bought so many secret lairs before and has the time to get in line at the right time. But this time, lo and behold, I was busy at the perfect time, and so I wasn't able to get it. It just seems like, what are we doing here? I don't know.
Yeah. I saw the queue and I saw that it was going to be in excess of an hour. I was like, well, I'm going grocery shopping. And if I had waited that hour and then been told I couldn't have bought the cards, which would have been the case 100%, I would have myself.
It's just so bad.
Yeah. I don't know who this benefits, I guess, is the biggest question in my mind. Because like you said, it makes them less money. Yeah, shareholders, I guess.
I guess the part where it's probably a little bit like, it is probably logistically much easier for them to do. They say, all right, we have this drop. We predict via market research that it will be X popular. Therefore, we will pre-print X units. We have X units. We will sell X units. Oh, we underpredicted. Oh, well, we overpredicted. We can give them away at MagicCons, type of thing. And it's just like, in the old model, I think there was a lot of hustle and bustle of, oh man, we sold way more than we thought we were going to. How the hell are we going to be able to buy this much printing space within a, reasonable time frame and keep our costs under control? And okay, it's all coming in all at once. We got to ship out all these things and people don't get their EDH decks for a whole year and the PR is terrible. And so I can see where they're coming from. I desperately wish that they would swap the model back.
To them, it's like, cool, we sold out.
Yeah, that's a positive.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
I guess the other good thing is now the PR is super positive, so
I mean,
they really turned that one around.
The PR for Wizards right now is not great. I do feel sorry for people involved.
Wait, who's talking shit?
Well, it's like literally, it just feels like a chain reaction right now because you got like the BNR stuff, you got the Secret Lair, you got a Tidal Weekend. It's just like hit after hit after hit, and it's just like, when is it going to stop?
Truly.
Well, speaking of stuff that's never going to stop, it's my co-hosts having interests that are not Magic the Gathering. It's time for the co-host notebook. Welcome to the co-host notebook, the part of the show where the co-hosts tell me about what they like, what they're doing, what's going on, whatever they want to. Dan, we usually go to Emma first, but Dan, what do you have in your co-host's notebook today?
I've been doing a ton of Elden Ring since the new DLC came out. I've been very locked into that and been spending a massive amount of my free time doing it. Hiking, as always. Skibidi Toilet, episode 69-420 just came out. The head came out of the toilet once again.
What?
I know, you wouldn't believe it.
I did see, actually, in Skibidi Toilet news.
Skibidi watch.
The absolute insane, absolutely the company that, like, the weird media conglomerate or whatever, that the guy who makes Skibidi Toilet sold like some of like the media merchandising rights to, sued the guy who makes Gary's mod for saying, hey, you're using assets that we have rights to, yada, 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 here in your marketing materials on your Steam page.
Wow.
They're all fucking Half-Life assets. You're trying to mess with Valve. What are you doing?
That's incredible. I love the bravado of it, honestly.
You're suing a guy who made a game that your guy is using directly to make your media property, all of which this like game uses freely available assets from Valve themselves. What's going on?
It's so incredible to me that you had an addition to the Skibidi Toilet news.
Actual Skibidi Toilet news. You've been waiting for 17 episodes, listener. Real Skibidi Toilet news is here.
Outside of that, I have been rereading Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. Have you ever read that?
I've heard of it.
Really fantastic book. Very extremely funny, probably funnier than it is intellectually in depth. Yeah. But very well worth a read. Fantastic book. I think is a very great satirical look at people in political systems. And
I might be interested in that.
Actually about this book, and they kept comparing the main character to like the brain rot Twitter folks, and I was like, whoa, that's such an incredibly apt comparison, because this person, the main character of the book, is a very disgusting person in most aspects of their personality, but they're incredibly well learned and read, and they speak very verbosely and have a lot of seemingly conceptually in-depth things to say that have no real substance or meaning behind them at all. So yeah, hearing the average Twitter consumer comparison, it's like, oh yeah, it's such a perfect comparison. But yeah, extremely funny. Listener, if you have never read Confederacy of Dunces, very well worth your time. Very funny book.
I've put it on my Goodreads to read list. Emma, what's in your Goodreads to read list?
Oh God, I don't have a Goodreads list. I have an actual pile of books like I need to read at some point that I keep buying and not actually reading. So I haven't done a huge amount, to be honest. I was going to say,
you've been on vacation, so I hope you haven't been doing a whole lot.
Oh no, I stayed at, like, before recording, I was saying to Dan, like, just stayed at home. Just,
That's my kind of vacation.
Enjoy the TV, start the Olympics. The Olympics started. That's been pretty fun to watch. Getting back into Warhammer, as in, like, painting. So I spent a little time just getting everything set up. And in terms of gaming, I'm back into Dragon Age still. So I finished Origins not too long ago. I tried to play Dragon Age 2, but it's just so bad I couldn't
2 is
get
a
through
mess.
it.
It's such a
2
mess.
is just such a train wreck. So I'm like, I skipped it and now I'm on Inquisition, and Inquisition still holds up really well after 10 years or so. So yeah, playing that. I also picked up a couple of the Dragon Age books because some of those are really good. A lot of them are pre-Origin Dragon Age Origins, and they were written by the original Dragon Age writers, so they're pretty good, like, content-wise. So that's like my hyperfixation right now.
Very nice. Exciting time. I love Dragon Age 2. I watched Jen play all of Dragon Age 2. It's the only Dragon Age game she's played. She really liked it, but she has no context because she had played no other Dragon Age game, and something about that game really, like, scratched the itch for her. Despite it being, like, all reused assets, the sound, just like the dialogue audio stopped working like halfway through the game. It never came back on, no matter what she tried. Wow. This is on the PS3. So
jeez,
it was very funny. It's one of those series that I would love to play one day, but maybe not that one.
Like, I'm replaying it because the Veil Guard's out October, November time, apparently. So just, like, even though you can't, because you create your own story in Dragon Age, you have your own, like, decisions and stuff, and they tend to port over into other games. You can't really do that now because there's just been, like, so much time between releases. Like, they're on different consoles now. There's, like, different, like, architecture involved. But it's been really fun going through them again, and just, because I played Dragon Age Origins when it first came out way back when.
Are you playing them on PC or on console?
I'm playing them on PC. I modded Dragon Age Origins because it does not hold up well because it's like a 2008 game or whatever. It's so old. But it plays a lot like Baldur's Gate, like the old ones, like Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2. That's where they got the inspiration from. I tried Dragon Age 2 for like 30 minutes. I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't. It's so bad. Like, this is like my free time. I need to, just skip this. So Inquisition's been really good. I played it before when it, like, first came out, but it's really nice to actually spend time going through all the dialogue and doing, like, side quests and stuff. It's not as good as Origins. There's a very MMO sort of grindy aspect to it, which is not as fun, but the actual story and dialogue is, like, top tier.
Heck yeah. Well, that's all we have for this episode of the Herald's Horn. Dan, Emma, do you have anything to leave our listeners with?
Emma, you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
Oh, wow, a gentleman. You can find me on all the platforms, Moderately Anonymous MTG. I'm on Twitch. I'm on YouTube. Go follow me all over the place. Moderately MTG on Twitter. That's where I talk the most shit.
Yep, I talk the most shit on Twitter, well, sometimes, at MOD Partlow, and also recommend checking TCG Player Infinite, where I occasionally write stuff and then edit Cal's content too. So yeah,
I have an article to advertise today, I guess.
I need to edit it, but...
No, brother! Oh yeah, no, it comes out tomorrow. It is not Wednesday, it's Tuesday!
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, brother.
Well, that's all we have for this episode. We've got a great interview coming up with Tori of the Scrybabies. You owe me $500. Thanks for listening.
Good buds.
I love you, everyone.
Hey there. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you want to help support the podcast, check out our Patreon. You'll get a sticker in the mail and access to our Patreon exclusive content, which I'm always cooking up more of every day. We've got bonus questions with guests, exclusive interviews, me thought dumping about Magic in my life. What else could you want? Plus, when we read letters to the editors, those sent through Patreon DMs or the Discord get first priority. Yep, we have a Discord that you'll be thrown into. Come talk to me about professional wrestling. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get back into this episode. And welcome back. I am joined today by the one, the only, Tori of the Vast, better known as Tori to her friends, one half of the Scrybabies, content creator extraordinaire, writer of excellent emails by my understanding. Welcome to the Herald's Horn, Tori. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much for having me on the horn.
On the horn, yeah. Okay, so what if we just turn this into an episode of Around the Horn? I can put together like a topics list really quick. We have a minute for everything.
I like that idea.
Unfortunately,
I feel like I'm on like Family Feud.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, this is an audio only podcast, so that doesn't really work out at all. All right, Tori.
True.
Obviously, many great people. All right, Tori. Obviously, many people know you for your work with the Scrybabies, content you make in other places as well. But as always, I got to start you off with the classic question that starts off every Magic the Gathering interview. How did you get started playing Magic the Gathering?
So I actually got started playing during the global pandemic of coronavirus, COVID-19, as some call it. And Mark, the Mookdubs MTG, Mookdubs, actually brought precons over to my ex's house where I used to reside, and they were playing Magic together, and I wanted to try playing Magic also. So I got a precon and started playing with them. And that is how I learned how to play, was unfortunately through Commander, which was super confusing, and I played very incorrectly and didn't know what I was doing. But I liked all the cards and all the little creatures and cool little things. So that's how I got my claws in there and got hooked.
Got all the creatures put their claws into you, and you were like, all right, I'm in.
Yep.
Yeah, Commander.
That's exactly what happened.
Commander as a first format. As we all know, EDH is your favorite format at this time, which is very obvious because we all know that because that's where you got your start. So obviously it has to be your favorite. As we all know, Commander, the best format for learning Magic the Gathering. Why is it the best format for learning, Tori?
It's not.
Oh, brother, you ruined the bit. Oh.
I'm sorry. I'll correct myself. It's the best because typically new players already know how every single mechanic ever invented works. And playing 400 cards you've never seen before is easy to digest.
Yes, certainly. Okay.
Yeah, and a 3-hour game is very appealing to somebody who doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ideally, if you were to like come up with the worst way to teach someone how to play Magic the Gathering, what do you think that would be?
Ooh, the worst way to teach someone Magic? Ooh, Pioneer.
Like because it's so boring, it'll put them to sleep, or? I
just don't like Pioneer. I don't like the decks, and I don't like how grindy some of the matchups can be. And like the cards are like powerful, but not. Like Modern's super cool, Legacy's super cool, but Pioneer, I'm just like, I want one of those bumper stickers that's like, I'd rather be playing Modern at the Pioneer event.
I'd rather be playing Modern with my sick Nadu deck than I don't know how those bumper stickers work.
Yeah.
That's not my generation.
I think the best way to learn Magic, though, is probably through Jumpstart. I think Jumpstart's like go-to product.
Like a sick product. A lot of the cards are pretty simple. There's like one really cool, more complicated card in every little pack. You get a small deck. Everything just kind of works. Yeah,
it's so much fun, and it makes sense. And like you said, you get like 2 rares, and you're like, oh my god, these must be like the best cards ever made. These are so good. You already have your mana base. It works out really well. When I got the Jumpstart Lord of the Rings boxes, oh my god, me and Steve played that like every day. We're like, you want a Jumpstart? And they're so nice because you can just bring it wherever you want. they're so compact. You could just go play. We like played on the couch.
So you started playing Magic like during the pandemic, as a great many people did. When you said like Mark, I thought Mark introduced me. I thought you were gonna say Mark Rosewater introduced you to Magic the Gathering. I was gonna be like, wow, that's impressive. But did you get to play Jumpstart pretty early on? Because in that case, Jumpstart would have come out pretty soon after you started playing.
No. I only played EDH for I played EDH for like a whole year, and then after like my year mark of playing Magic, or around a year, I played Modern for the first time, and then I loved that, and now I've been playing like Modern. I dipped my toes in Legacy a couple times. Very, very fun. Played a lot of Limited. Played a lot of the pre-releases. And then I was very fortunate enough to have my boyfriend and friends who play Vintage Cube, which is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Good times.
Big Vintage Cube player at this time?
I'm not a huge Vintage Cube player. I don't play as often as I should. But when I do get to play, I like playing Vintage Cube in person because it's just fun.
And I think like Vintage Cube Draft, like it's Cube in general, I think does kind of hit for a lot of people who are not into Commander. It hits a lot of that same kind of, we can chill and hang out, but they're still like, we're doing something kind of more serious. We're aiming to win. I get the appeal of Cube a lot for people who don't like Commander as much.
Yeah, playing Vintage Cube, you're playing like a deck of single cards, which is nice. They're all super powerful. It's like you're playing CDH, but one-on-one.
What? You can play CDH one-on-one?
I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? It's all the best cards in like one deck, but there's no repeats.
That's fair. So true, actually. Actually. Okay, Vintage Cube is CDH, so write that down, everyone. Write that down.
Don't write that down. Everyone's going to kill me. They're going to come at me in droves.
You should tweet about how Tori said that on twitter.com. So, Tori, I do want to get into the rest of the story. You played Commander. You started playing Vintage Cube. But then you like started making content online. The Scrybabies exists. There's a pretty big through line, and it's a pretty big jump in a relatively short amount of time. I say you probably have been playing Magic for 4.5 years.
So, all right, you clearly didn't watch the Disney Plus miniseries of us, what me and Lou have done. So you missed some of the lore.
I did listen to the whole podcast episode about it, but I don't know if anyone else listening has, so.
Oh, true. Okay. I was going to say, I was like, whoa, fake fan.
Fake fan.
Bandwagoner, found them. All right.
Scrybabies, marginally popular, really popular, 10,000 subscribers. All right, fine. I'll pretend to know Tori's personal history.
Yeah, Victoria of the Vast is so cool. So what was my whole story, I guess? So 2021, I started playing Magic, I think. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it was around like the COVID times. Mm-hmm. And then I started making TikToks because I was bored and I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I made one about, actually my first TikTok ever was about the cost of dual lands. Because I was a new player and I was a Commander player. So I was like,
I want dual lands, they're so pricey.
I was like, I want this cool like plateau thing for my Kalia deck. She'd be so much better if she had one card in it that was different. Oh my god, I'd be guaranteed to draw it every time. It'd be so good. And
I can see the appeal to the EDH audience, yeah.
Yeah, dual lands are fucking awesome. So I was like, I want this card for my deck. How much is it? And I was like, why is this card $300? Mm-hmm. This is so insane. Mm-hmm. And at this point, I thought like $5 was an expensive card. I was like, whoa, it must be broken. So yeah, I went and made a TikTok about dual lands, and then it like blew up, and I was like, oh wow, people like this. So I was like, I'm gonna make more TikToks about the woes of like trying to, I guess, learn to play Magic, or like becoming slowly obsessed and addicted to Magic, but it being really expensive. And then the people liked it. They laughed, they cheered, they cried.
Like rousing ovation.
Yeah, they cried with me. They laughed at me, laughed with me. And then eventually I was like, ooh, I have a lot of fun doing this. This is a good creative outlet for me. And I really like making people laugh. I enjoy that. When people laugh at my joke, I'm like,
that's actually your validation in life.
Yeah, that's like, I'm
really
like,
powers you up.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, cool. Like that, I've made it. I'm done. See you later. Thank you guys. So yeah, I was stoked on that. So I started making them every day, like posting daily on TikTok. And then eventually one of them went viral. And it was me taking Cranko out of my hat. It was a fishing hat. It was a trout hat. And it got like 2 million views. And I remember I was like stoked, but at the same time I was like terrified because I had like 10,000 followers overnight, and like a bunch of people were like perceiving me, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is wild. And then eventually I just became a thing where like I would just like make TikToks all the time, and eventually like brands reached out about like partnering and stuff on TikTok, and I was like, yeah, this sounds cool. I guess like I'll do this. Okay. And I'm like, I'm so in. This is fun. This is a cool like little thing I do. And then I met Lua and we became besties. And eventually after hanging out for like probably like almost a year, we both went on to Shuffle Up and Play. And while we were like doing all these escapades together, Lua was like, if I ever wanted to start a show, like, would you be down? And I was like, yeah, definitely. Like, we would kill it. And then we were like, let's just do it.
Fuck you know what? We can just do it.
We can just do it. Like, who's stopping us? You know? And we were like, so many people do this. Like, why can't we? So we like started our Patreon, and we like bought some cameras and some mics, and we were like, we're going to just figure this out as we go. And now we have been figuring it out as we go for the last year and a half.
It's pretty wild. Sick. It's pretty sick. And yeah, you're doing very well for yourself.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's terrifying to like be perceived by a new audience, you know, even if you are just like jamming games with your friends and all that kind of stuff, or with famous content creators you never thought you'd get to meet or whatever that maybe you're a really big fan of. And that's something that's always crazy.
It was weird too, because like I always tell people like I don't know what I would do without Lua, obviously because she's my wife, but also because, you know, Lua's been doing this a very long time, and she is a professional at being a media personality. I am not. I'm like learning as I go. I think at this point I've got it pretty good, but for the first year or two I was just like, yo, I'm just some like 32-year-old weirdo, like sitting in my room, like, you know, burping into my mic and like playing Stardew Valley. Like there's really no like people are like, whoa, like you must do this full time. And I'm like, no, I'm a 9 to 5. I'm miserable just like you. I'm you know, just a gal. And I mean, at the end of the day, we all are. But it was very weird because I was just like not used to being like out in public a lot. Like I have not been to a convention really ever. And then I was going to them as like an invited person, and people would come over and be like, I want to hang out and talk to you. And I'd be like, me? You want to talk to me? Like,
excuse me, I'm just trying to go fishing right now. Do you see how close to a body of water we are?
Yeah, sorry I didn't answer your calls on the other line. You know what I mean? Like catching a line. Not a laugh, nothing. Wow. All right, I'm leaving.
Tori, you did mention that something you've had to like learn, you know, you got your start, you know, like, oh, I'm going to make some TikToks. Oh, people think I'm funny. That's a lot of fun. But now that you're doing the Scrybaby stuff, you're doing work for Wizards of the Coast. You have to guest at events, all that kind of stuff. You said you've kind of had to like learn how to become more of like that media personality, or, you know, figure out what that looks like for you. Is there like any like really big lesson you've learned along the way in that process? Oh yeah, the biggest lesson I had to learn was boundaries. Especially because in this kind of work, it is very easy to feel like you're on 24/7 when you are like on your phone, which like normally if you're not like doing content or you're not like a media person, like you go on your phone and you scroll Twitter and you're just looking for memes or like, you know, playing like games and bullshit on your phone. But when you're like locked in, you're like, oh, I have to be actively like replying to people, talking to multiple people in Discords, and, you know, checking my comments, doing all this stuff. And
you notice as like a newer person in the scene, like when you start like taking really cool opportunities, like going on streams, going on podcasts, going on anything, like a lot of the time you'll have the time to do stuff, which is cool. But sometimes like your schedule doesn't work out, but it feels like I felt like I couldn't say no. Like if someone wanted me on their stream, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to do this. But like I, would stay up super late because I wanted to be accommodating to people's streams. But then I was hurting myself.
Yeah, like half of them are on the West Coast, and you go to bed early.
Yeah,
East
and
Coast
like they would be at like 9 o'clock at night West Coast times, and I'd be like, well, I guess I could stay up till 2 a.m. I only have to be up at work for 6. And I would just like, I didn't like not have fun, but I was like suffering the next day, being really tired and feeling like I gotta get home and do this, and if I say no, they're never gonna ask me again, and like I'm gonna let somebody down, and like you don't let anybody down by being busy. It's fine. And scheduling that time to have to yourself is very important. Like as I started getting better with like posting, I would have days where I was like, Sundays I have nothing to do during the week. That's when I record a lot of my TikToks or Reels. And then throughout the week I post them, so I'm not recording every single day. Because I used to record every day.
Yeah, but now you sit down on Sunday, knock them out, change your shirt if you're feeling really...
Change your shirt if you're feeling like you like look really the same all the time. Yeah, especially with like sketch comedies and stuff, like, or if you're doing TikTok where there's trends, like you can film 4 in a day, and then you don't have to release them all at once. You could like space them out. And now you have more time for yourself during the week. You're not like, I gotta be on the next thing. And also another big thing was like with the spaces like TikTok and YouTube, TikTok especially, it's very easy to feel like if I'm not constantly posting, I'm going to become irrelevant and no one's going to care about me anymore.
Yeah, because it is like a very, not transient, but like very trend focused type of environment.
Right. And it's like one of, especially TikTok, it's one of those things where like you want to strike while the iron's hot. You're like, ooh, a new trending sound. I better use it right now because this is while it's trending and I want to be the first person to do it. So that way it takes off and like I don't look like I'm ripping off other people's stuff. And it's exhausting because you're constantly chasing this trend that's going to change in 2 days. So just realizing, if I don't post for a while, that's totally okay. Like, it's kind of the same thing with like a hobby that you really like. If you're somebody who likes to, I don't know, build Gundams, or you like to paint, or even go golfing, even something like that.
Let's go golfing.
Let's go golfing. Gatorade. If you did it every single day, even when you didn't want to, you would grow to hate it. But if you wait until you're feeling like, I want to do this,
and then
or I have a good idea, and then you do it, it's fun and it's rewarding. And that's something to remember with content, is like, if you do it every single day, because you're like, I gotta keep up with this, eventually you just burn out and crash.
I've said it before, not to immediately make this about me, but I'm going to, because this is my podcast.
Make it about you. It's your podcast.
It is
do whatever
my
you
podcast.
Want.
You're the
it's
guest.
Your world.
You're the guest here, Tori.
Yeah.
No, that is, I've said it before on the podcast, but that is kind of a big reason why I kind of ended up burning out on Playing with Power. It's like Playing with Power social media is kind of an always on job and similar. So like, and a lot of the other work for the channel sometimes could be a little always on. And I was just like, well, do I really want to record a game tonight? Well, no, but I have to, or else I'll let down 12 people or whatever across the team, or I need to check in on X thing all the time, and that really adds up and is bad really fast.
Yeah. Exactly.
Both. So would you say you had to learn both personal and professional boundaries?
Absolutely. Especially because I'm one of those people where like I answer everybody. If you message me, I'll answer it. If you say like, hey, I like your content, I'll be like, thanks for watching. That's cool. But then there's sometimes people get like a little too pushy with certain requests or DMs, or, you'll say no to something and they'll be like, are you sure? And like, you feel like, I don't want to make this person unhappy. I better just like find a way to make it work.
Yes, yeah.
Find a way to make it happen. And it's like, you can't please everybody. And that's the other thing too, is you have to professionally be like, hey, I have to make time for me and myself. And outside of like this content, I also have like a job, house to take care of, pets to take care of, a life, family. Gotta make time for me. And that's hard to tell people, but the best part is they get it. No one's ever mad.
No, actually saying no is very reasonable. And like, it's pretty, and if they are mad, they're like an unreasonable person, actually.
Yeah, I talked to one of my friends about this recently too, is I'd like, I have completely stopped like doing EDH streams really. Like I'll do them once in a while, just because a lot of the times they're very late. And like once I finish work and I finish cooking and cleaning for the day, I usually want to just like lay on the couch and die. That's it. I don't really want to play Magic at like 9 p.m. I want to get ready to go to bed, so I don't really like want to be on too many at this point. But every time someone invites me and I say no, I'm like, God, am I saying no? And does it come off as me being like, I'm too good for this. I don't want to do this. I would rather do anything else. No, thank you. Do you know who I am? Or really, I'm just like, I'm so sleepy. And they're always like, all right, thanks.
Yeah, just like actually.
But I just feel like I'm like, wow, I sound like a snob.
Yeah. It's just like, actually, I do get up at 6 a.m. Eastern every day. And Spell Table isn't my gig. And, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
it's one of those things too where like sometimes like that's the complex part of playing like on a Spell Table like Commander stream too, is like there's no guarantee of when those games will end. Like my biggest thing I did for the first year of me playing Magic, I streamed on Twitch and I streamed my Commander games and it was fun. I had a great time. But I was notorious for playing 2 games and then everyone would be like, do we have time for a third? And I'd be like, we'll make it a fast one. It was never a fast
3
one.
hours
It was
long.
like 2 hours long. And before I know it, I'm like, it's 12:30. I have to do my 20-step skincare routine still. I need to floss. Like, I'm never going to fall asleep. And then, like, once you hit that threshold where you're awake too long, you can't fall asleep. It's a nightmare. And, yeah, it was just really hard to guarantee I'll be off at this time. But it's like, you know, if I do something now, if it's like, we're playing like 2 games of CDH, they should be pretty quick. Mm-hmm. All right. Or someone's like, modern game, I'd be like, yeah. They're done fast.
Yep.
15 minutes usually.
A third?
Can't beat that.
Oh, man, you got me.
Twisting my arm.
Yeah. 1 Pioneer game? No. Not
absolutely
interested.
not. I'm calling my lawyer. No.
What if they say you can play Phoenix?
Then I'll say sure. That is the only deck I like to play.
As long as they aren't playing Amelia.
The Amalia combo, that one's rough for me. But I do like casting Treasure Cruise, so...
Mm-hmm. Very fun spell to cast. I think they should unban Dig Through Time in Pioneer. I think that's the shake-up the format needs.
I agree.
All right, Tori, you did mention earlier, like way, way earlier, you just so happened to... It came out of your mouth. It's an example for hobbies. Painting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you into painting?
I'm into the arts.
I consider I consider digital art to largely be painting. So that's where I'm coming from.
I do a lot of artwork. I used to paint and also do colored pencil drawings. However, I think that the iPad and being able to draw on like an iPad, or even if you have like Adobe Create or whatever, is so amazing for a multitude of reasons. Which, like, don't get me wrong, I still love like physical and like, you know, handmade art pieces. Like they're gorgeous. However, not having to worry about like my hands hurting, my eyes hurting, my back killing me by bending over to like get small details is just a godsend. Mm-hmm. And then it's just like economically more friendly. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not like going through reams of paper or being like, this looks like shit, throw it out. Mm-hmm. And, you know, buying a bunch of supplies over and over again. It's just me, my Apple Pencil, and my fucking iPad going to work.
Yeah, you're
That's
just
it.
chilling.
Yeah, we're vibing. And if I don't like something, I can just press delete and it's like it never happened.
That seems very useful, very nice. And now you get to do a lot of that kind of stuff for Scrybabies now, right? You made the iconic shirt.
I do all of it for Scrybabies.
You do a lot of it for Scrybabies. Is that what I just heard?
Yeah. So I do.
You do a small amount of artwork for Scrybabies, like every quarter?
I've drawn one thing ever for Scrybabies.
You you hand lettered Hot People Play Magic? That's your contribution?
Every single shirt, I create the vinyl. I go into the lab.
Oh, yeah.
I make the vinyl. I press it.
You X-Acto cut it out.
Yeah, I use my iron. Yeah.
Yeah, you iron everyone.
Yes. Yeah, so I do the graphic design for Scrybabies. I did our little logo. I do our stickers and our tokens every month. I designed a lot of the merch. There are some other merch designs on there by Ricky, but for the most part, I do almost all of them. I also just took over the thumbnails, so I do the thumbnails for YouTube, and yeah, I'm doing it all.
All while having a 9-to-5 job, huh?
Yes, how like Dolly Parton intended. Well, you see, so I usually take a day in the month to draw the sticker and token for the following month. And I'll do that at nighttime while I'm like watching The Bachelor on the couch usually. So that way I'm like, okay, I'm locked in, I'm doing this, and that's when I get to draw. And then I'll usually think of my ideas like throughout the day. Like I'll see something and be like, oh my god, that would be such a good token. I'm going to draw that. Or sometimes I'll just like let the ideas flow. This newest token coming out, or newest sticker coming out, was actually gifted to me, the idea from Niall, so we know it's a banger. But yeah, I fit it in with my 9-to-5 by finding a day to dedicate to drawing. Usually it's a weeknight for the month in advance. And then throughout the day at work, I do my 9-to-5, and Lou and I usually record Scrybabies on a weeknight. We'll set up our filming dates in advance for recording episodes on weekends so it can accommodate my work schedule, which is very nice of everybody. And then, like my general work week, usually the last week of the month is when I take a night and I put on my headphones and I write out every single patron's mailing address. And I stuff the envelopes with their stickers and tokens and I lick them. Put the stamp on. It takes me about 4 hours, not too bad. And then I hand draw the tokens for the 5 and 6 patrons, and they just get whatever I want.
Yeah, you're just doodling in the moment.
In the moment, I'll think of something and be like, "That's it." Like a couple months ago, I think I did like Pokemon, Studio Ghibli. This month, I'm doing. Well, because of Bloomburrow, I'm doing fish tokens. So someone's getting a bass, someone's getting a flounder. You know, I'm just like drawing
ripping out fish. Yeah.
Ripping out fish. Next month, who knows? It'll just be whatever I want.
Chainsaw
but it's
tokens.
Fun. Because those are hand drawn.
Yeah,
I take the time to like, get my light out and like pen and ink them.
It's a lot of fun. Is the art and graphic design, I feel like that, of all of the stuff you said, like, you know, you said, oh, you know, I figured out a healthy way to do the TikToks. I can kind of just do it when I'm feeling it. I feel like some of the deadlines and constraints and that kind of stuff surrounding the art, graphic design. We were talking earlier about, you know, how hard some of these creative processes can be to kind of like turn on and off when you absolutely like need them to be. Have you run into that with like the art, the graphic design? Because, you know, I'm not an artist, but I'm a writer, and I know that Thursday comes, Friday comes, Saturday comes, Sunday comes, I've got nothing. Monday comes, I have an article due, I have to have something, and that's one of the most miserable experiences of my life.
It is. It's like that common saying, you can't lead a writer to water and make them drink. It's so true. That's the hardest part, I think, with it, is like recording an episode, if you're like, or like even recording a TikTok, like usually there's like some kind of layout, some idea. Like same thing with like the like ambassador content I've done in the past. It was like make a video about pre-release. Yeah, you got it. I know what a pre-release is. I could just, you know, find some cool cards and like base it around what my knowledge is. It's the concepting that is the hardest part. Once you know what to write about, the ideas flow.
Yeah, just kind of.
Once you know what you want to draw, you're just like, yeah, I got this. But it's like, if you gave me a pen and paper right now and you were like, draw something, I'd be like, well, what do you want? And if you're like, well, whatever you want, dealer's choice. I'm like, I don't fucking know. I have no idea what to draw. That's impossible. So it's sometimes I'll just like look up tokens and just like see frog and be like, all right, what kind of frog can I make? What would be good for a frog? Yeah. Or like sometimes I'll just wake up in the middle of the night and be like, this came to me, I need to draw this. And that's when I'm like, let's go. Or I'll try to give myself like themes. Like a lot of the stickers I've been doing lately have been like traditional flash tattoo artwork because I was like, how can I make this into a thing? Oh, the ideas flow when it comes to tattoos. But yeah, getting the inspiration to make something is very challenging because it's like, where do you look? And also it's one of those things where like I try to make a lot of our stickers and tokens. Like my goal with the tokens is I want people who see them out and about at a pre-release, at an F&M, wherever you may be. If someone plays one of our tokens, I either want the reaction of, oh my god, I love that token, that's a Scrybabies token, or where did you get that? You know? Not just like, that's cute, that's really cool, where did you get it? You know? I need to have that. And I want it to be like, oh, that's such a good idea, which sounds egotistical, but I'm like, I like when it stands out. Which is funny because like I did this food token for like the Bearded Dragon event we had at the Summerfest, and it was a box of pork roll, the Taylor Ham's pork roll box, and I made it as the Scrybabies food token. And people love it because they're like, oh my god, that's such a deep cut.
That's the most Jersey thing ever.
It's the most Jersey thing ever. And then all of our patrons who are in like every 47 other states are going to be like, what the fuck is this? But yeah, I like having a cool idea that it's like, there's nothing else like that yet. Or there's something similar maybe, but like, it's if you know it, you know it. Same thing with the pop culture references. We have like a warrior token that's like from the Warriors, like the movie. And I'm like, if you get it, cool. If you don't get it, you should. You should know what that movie is. It's a good movie.
You should be better, and you should know what that is.
You should know what the Warriors is. It's a great movie. But yeah, I understand your woes. Being like in a block creatively, I just like pace the house and I just like put my head in the wall and I'm just like, oh god, like I'm a loser. Life's horrible. Like everything is a dark cloud. There's no color left in the world. And then I'll be like, oh my god, I should draw a little mushroom guy. Everything's like, okay.
Yippee!
Yeah. Yippee!
Yeah! Woo! Yippee! I'm gonna draw a bass. Woohoo!
Woo! I did a trout token. That's the next one. All right.
You can't lead a Cal to fishing, and make him fish. Yeah, I'm gonna coin that one. I'm gonna trademark that one for sure. Do you have a favorite drawing that you've done for the Scrybabies, or a favorite design? Is it I assume it's not the most commercially successful one. Or is it the most commercially successful one? Are you capitalism pilled?
No, my favorite Scrybabies design for a shirt is probably the Go Birds one, because I just love Birds of Paradise and I thought it was funny and it was like geographically correct and just good. So I love that one. And then my favorite token that I've made is probably the Bearded Dragon Taylor Ham pork roll one. But I also very much love the trout that is now on his way here. Should be here any day now, thank God.
Yeah, just in time.
I do laugh though, because Hot People Play Magic, I say, is like my magnum opus. And I always laugh because to me that is like my modern art piece, where I'm like, I did not that like modern art's bad, but I'm like, you know how like you'll see like a simple line drawing of like a face and it's at Home Goods for like $40, and it's like, or not even for it, it's like you'll see like an expensive like piece of art at like Home Goods, and it was like, you look at it and you're like, I could have drawn that. You know, and it's like the modern art thing. You're like, people go to a modern art museum and they're like, I could have drawn that.
No, you can't.
You know? No, it's not even that you can't. It's you didn't.
Yeah, actually, you didn't think of doing that, so
you didn't do it. You could have, but you didn't. But I laugh because it's the same thing where like people have that boomer take on like modern art where they're like, I could draw that. But what about like Da Vinci's paintings? Like, no one can just do that. That's real art. It's like, yeah, I worked really, really hard and put hours and hours into certain designs, and they're like, you know, like people are like, oh, that's nice, you know, and it's like, oh, cool drawing. And you're like, thanks. And then I just was like, fucking font generator, let's go, internet, boom, Photoshop on shirt. And it was like, oh, it's genius. Oh, it's incredible. It sold over 200 units. Oh my goodness. And I was like, that was really it, huh? And I love it. It's great. I'm happy about it. People love it too, which makes me happy. And I love seeing it out. And like in public, it's always like wild when I go to like F&M and someone's wearing a Hot People Play Magic shirt. I'm like, holy fuck.
Wait, I made that.
But yeah, I'm like, oh my God, I did that. I made that. And it's funny because it's like one of those things where I have like literal like paintings and drawings I've done that are like my favorite thing ever. And if I show them to somebody, like they'll be like I have a literal illustration in a book, in a published book. And most people don't know that. And I'm like, yeah, I worked really hard on this painting and it's in a book. And everyone's like, oh, that's cool. But like, Hot People Play Magic. Dude, Jesus Christ. And yeah, I'm not mad at it. It's just funny how
sure.
like I actually came, and it's funny because I came up with that idea in the middle of a EDH stream because it wasn't my turn, and I was thinking because I was confused and lost in the sauce of what was going on. You know, it happens sometimes when you play Commander. You're just like, And I was just like, oh my God, I have a great idea. And I pulled up my second monitor and I like just put it on a shirt and sent it to Lua. And I was like, wouldn't this be cool? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I'm going to list this after I get off the stream.
Yep.
She's like, all right. And like, it's cool though. I actually have one little like quipped about this so we can move on to something more interesting instead of me gloating about Hot People Play Magic. One thing that was funny was, I'll never forget one time I saw somebody wearing like a Hot People Play Magic shirt. And I was just like, I like shirt. And he just looked at me and was like, oh yeah, thanks. And I was like, he has no idea. He has no idea it's mine.
He doesn't know. He didn't know I did that.
He doesn't know it's my idea. He doesn't know I'm the Scrybaby. And it always blows my mind when people are like, thanks. I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah, you don't even know. You've reached Tori Nirvana. You can simply produce things, but people don't know. You don't have to be perceived to do it anymore, Tori.
Yeah, people don't know that they're rocking my merch when they walk past me, and I'm just like, shh, you only knew. I was so deep in that EDH game when I made that shirt you're wearing.
What commander were you playing?
I don't know.
Okay. Well.
Probably fucking Mary at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, Tori, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Herald's Horn podcast. I do have one more question I'm going to ask you. It's for the patrons, though.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you for your Straw Hat tier list. Tori, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Do you have anything to leave our listeners with before we go?
Yeah, let's see. Thank you for having me, number one, on the podcast. And also, be sure to check us out on Scrybabies on YouTube. We have a game show and podcast that we post. It's a weekly episode. It's pretty cool. Check it out. And read One Piece. It's really good.
Thank you for joining me, Tori.
Thank you, Cal, from Lairs. Am I ranking the Straw Hats?
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Herald's Horn. Herald's Horn is hosted, edited, and produced by me, Cal Jones. The co-hosts are Emma Partlow, Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage, and Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG. All of our info lives in the podcast description. If you want to reach out to me, whether with feedback, you want to give me money, or you just want to send a letter to the editor, hit up editorial@heraldshorn.com. Thanks again for listening to The Herald's Horn. We are having so much fun creating it. See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening,
Cal's
everyone.
Trying to perform a racism, but Emma.
What?
That was such a scandalous what?